Say morning. Okay, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. This is the February 10th, 2022 Cannabis Program Working Committee meeting of the City of Hawthorne, and it is called to order at 11:10 a.m. We will be led by the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could please, Mr. Robert Kim.
Thank you. Let's all stand and face the flag if you have one near you. Put your right hand over your heart and follow along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson Reyes English.
Yes, here.
City Manager Norris.
Present.
City Attorney Kim.
Here.
Board Member Greg McLean.
Here.
And Board Member Kenny Craig. Mr. Craig.
You're muted.
Here, present. Sorry about that.
Okay, perfect. All members are present.
Thank you, City Clerk. Let me just provide a couple of little housekeeping and reminders. Please silence all cell phones. Board members, please raise your hand to be recognized and please address the chair. Board members should be the only one that's on view here. Madam Clerk, please read guidelines for oral communications.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, all remarks shall be addressed to the committee as a body and not to any individual member. During oral communications, speakers shall have 3 minutes. Again, 3 minutes to state their business. The Brown Act prohibits the committee from providing a detailed response or acting upon any item not contained on the agenda. Furthermore, the committee as a body shall have the discretion at the close of oral communications to refer any remarks to the appropriate department for further study, investigation, report, and/or recommendations.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone waiting to speak under oral communications?
We do not. I currently don't see anyone raising their hand on our attendee component. Let me double check to make sure I didn't miss anyone. I see none.
Okay.
We did, however, receive 3 petitions with a total of approximately 120 signatures. All of the petitions and comments were submitted to the board members, and there is nothing further. And again, these petitions were against any retail for cannabis.
Thank you so much, City Clerk. If there's no one else who wishes to address these bodies, if there are no objections, I'll declare oral communications closed at this time, so ordered. Can we please take the petitions and file those with your office and provide all members copies of those petitions, please?
We will definitely do that. Thank you.
Let's see here. Item number 3 is the community outreach recap. Ms. Anderson, if you could please proceed with that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We just to go over a couple of things or give a couple of updates. We are finalizing the workshop and we'll have a draft over to the city manager by early next week. The city is still working on some of the maps that we're going to use and incorporate in our drafting of the ordinance. So the workshops will be focusing on community concerns and the uses that the city council previously authorized or wanted to see a draft of the regulations, or I'm sorry, the ordinance on. So that's what the community outreach workshops will focus on, and we will have a draft over to the city manager hopefully by next week, by early next week. We also have been working on the FAQ sheet. So we have a very comprehensive frequently asked questions list that we will be publishing on the city cannabis website so that potential applicants or community members can come and get information. A lot of it is directly from the state so that we can see what the regulations are, what they allow, what they don't allow. And then some of them are Hawthorne specific information regarding the process and where we're going with the process. So some of those FAQs will require ongoing updating, which we are going to take the lead on and make sure that the community can have direct access and transparency to the entire process. We will also be posting a link to the meeting agenda so that applicants and or community members can have direct access from the Cannabis website, as well as any updates that we have or decisions that we're making here. So we will have a central location for all things cannabis in the city. And then we're also going to make sure that I think one of the things that we were going to talk about today, and maybe Vaughn will take the lead on this one, but the frequency of the meetings and what's going to be covered in each meeting. We want to make sure that we are ahead, ahead of that so that we can post those things on the website as well if there are going to be any action items or decisions that folks would be interested in seeing, as well as any survey results or anything that we collect from the community will be housed on this website. So website page. So that's where we are with our updates and what we've been working on for the past since the last meeting.
Yeah, no, that's good information. Mr. Norris, you want to talk a little bit about
Yes,
the
absolutely.
flyers and
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Flyers, we have posted flyers for the committee meetings, or excuse me, community meetings on our social media sites. We have posted those items in the clerk's office, community service department, and on our website. So at this time, if the committee has any other recommendations where we can post those items to get the community involved and engaged, please advise. And then also circling back, Ebony, regarding the agenda for the meetings that we have the module set for starting the end of this month. Maybe if we have the fact sheet out, before that, we can take a look at that and use that as a template, as a guide. And as we receive additional oral communications or petitions, we can use that as a measurable on what we're going to deliver during those meetings.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's going to work out great. We should have the FAQ sheet in your inbox right after this meeting. There were just a couple of things that we did want to clarify, and I think you've already been in touch with Tony on those. So we'll clean that up and then send it over for your final approval. And we should have that up and running on the website by early next week at the latest. And I think that will help folks at least navigate what's happening and keeping that updated. Also, if we get any questions via email, we will then update the FAQ sheet to address those. So I'm sure if one person asks, there's somebody else out there that would want to know that same information. So as we get questions via email, we will update the FAQ sheet to reflect those questions that we received.
Okay, and then I can add the electronic billboards that we have in our city. We do have that information posted regarding the 4 upcoming meetings on our major thoroughfares. And then also, secondly, one clarification on the meetings that we have set in place from the committee here, members. Will the dialect change meeting to meeting? I think the community is very concerned if they miss one meeting and they attend another meeting. Will the information be different that's presented at those meetings?
No, the information is identical. The presentation is identical for every meeting. Now, I will say we do have a pretty robust question and answers section of the meeting. So obviously those questions might change, but our goal is to track all of those questions and then update them on the FAQ sheet on the website. So all of the questions that were asked, we will sort them by categories and provide answers during the workshop and then post those on the website on the FAQ sheet. So by attending one meeting, you'll have access to the questions that were asked during your session right away, but ultimately all of the sessions will be combined to add to a comprehensive FAQ sheet that will be hosted on the website.
correct. And thank you for that question, Mr. Norris, and thank you for the community's questions regarding that. What we're doing here at this point when we do our community outreach, and there are 4 community outreach dates and times that were posted and are getting out to the community. It's just basically duplicated information each meeting. What's going to change is the participants, and what's going to change is the questions that come from those in participation. So it'll be good to see. And yes, we're going to have redundant questions. However, that's what we're supposed to do. It's okay to get redundant questions. We're just making sure we're doing the community outreach thoroughly. Mrs. Forge, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Mr. Norris, we also talked this morning about the committee deciding how participants were going to register for each meeting. So do we need to have a conversation about that at this time or later on in the agenda?
I will ask our Madam Chairwoman to answer that. We do have one more working committee meeting before our community engagement meeting. So not sure if we want to address that now or do we want to address that at our next meeting?
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm going to go back to the community outreach component of it because I would like to make sure that all flyers are in public places. I'd like to make sure that our police department, community services department has those in our staging where they're at in the community, visiting various community areas to have those flyers readily available to give out to those constituents that are out there stopping by and saying hello to our police. I also want to make sure that we have them in public places. I know the public library is still open. We could put them there. We could put anywhere that we feel there's people, if you will, and you might want to just ask some stores like across the street at Superior, at Ralph's. You might just want to ask some of those managers there if we could just post those somewhere where they could be easily accessible as folks leave out from the grocery stores. Just again, making sure we have well-rounded notice. Ms. McGee, go ahead.
Yes. So the registration, what we were asking or what we may need to just figure out is because we're going to limit the capacity of the space.
Yes.
Do we want to do like an online registration form, like, hey, register in advance, or do we want to do a ticketed event? How did the city want to handle limiting the number of attendees per session?
So, Ms. McGee, that's a good question. And when you do the, which is the one that it is free, you could just register and then you're given it.
Yeah, you can do Eventbrite.
Yes, Eventbrite. I think we just do an Eventbrite page.
Sure.
Everybody gets registered on there with full information, if you will. And then they could print out a ticket and they're going to present it at the door when they come to the Memorial Center. The capacity is going to be that in compliance with COVID and LA County regulations. And we're going to monitor that. And I think we shouldn't be, I don't remember the percentage, Vaughn. I don't know if it's 25% capacity. You might want to look into that, exactly what that number would be for the amount of chairs that we will put out. So for the space that we have, it's a pretty large auditorium, but because of social distancing and seating, we're going to assure that we have the correct number of chairs. And what we're going to do is we're also going to have a monitoring at the door to assure that we have in compliance with COVID. And more importantly, if it gets to at a certain point where we cannot allow due to compliance, we'll have to make sure that we close that door to assure the safety of everyone. But more importantly, too, as folks are leaving, we could always allow for another person to come in and take their seat. So it's going to be a rotation. And then I'm also going to ask staff, Mr. Norris, to make sure that we have sanitation procedures put in place to assure everyone's safety with regards to the microphone, the tables, if there's any wipe down of any seating that is, metal of any sorts like that. So just assuring everyone is safe. And thank you to our Hawthorne Police Department for assuring Sergeant at Arms at our meetings. Appreciate that too. What else? We got go ahead, Ms. McGee.
Sorry, Madam Chair. So just to clarify that, we will take care of the registration for the Eventbrite and post all of that information on the city website. We will try to get that done by, again, early next week, so folks have plenty of time to register and get their tickets. Also, just FYI, the Eventbrite does allow for you to bring a phone ticket, so those without printers or do not have access will be able to still take their ticket even if they just have it on their phone.
Perfect. Yeah, I do remember that too.
Very easy.
Very easy. Let's see, we had Mrs. Ford, you took your hand down. Okay. Mr. Norris?
If we can get clarity on if the invitation is going to be needed to attend the meeting, or does the invitation promise you a seat inside the auditorium for the community engagement portion.
It's going to require registration. So everyone should register. It's going to be, again, a process, and we need to just assure, because of our COVID and county mandates, we just want to assure that everybody's being registered, those attending, and just monitoring the mandates that we have in place. So, yeah. Anything else? Mr. Kim, anything else?
I have one. Oh,
Okay, let me go ahead, Ms. McGee.
oh, I was just going to ask, did you want to limit the number of tickets per household, or is it open, or do you want to leave it open?
Yeah, no, it could be open.
Okay.
It could be open. Again, it's just the seating capacities that we're going to monitor.
Perfect.
Okay, Mr. Kim.
So we may want to put on either Eventbrite or something that the mask will be required for the public to come in. We may want to make an exception if someone's speaking or speaking up or something, but otherwise we should require a mask.
Yes, absolutely. And that's how come it's important. If they're going to have to remove their mask to speak, we want to make sure that we have sanitation, sanitary wipes and whatnot. That's very important. If they could keep their mask on, that would be great too. I mean, yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 4, the workshop logistics. You want to go ahead, Ms. Anderson?
I think this might have carried over from last week. So we were just going to do any updates on the logistics, but I think we've already identified what those were, which were the tickets, how we were going to do registration, masks being required. We can add all of that on the Eventbrite ticket, so registration, so that will be fine. And just if there's anything else that we need to do on our end in preparation for the workshop, I'm assuming that the city Parks and Recs department will do setup, or facilities management will do the setup. But if there's anything that we do need to know in terms of technology, anything like that, we'll just need to work with the city IT department on that, which I've been in contact with them.
Yes, and you could also work with Mr. Norris as our city manager to assure your needs are met. And then just to iterate again, all the flyers do indicate that we are observing all LA County mandates in regarding COVID and seating capacity. So there's well notice on all of that, masking, distancing, capacity, all of that. And yes, I do believe we've already covered those workshop logistics, and keep going as we go along. Item number 5, model ordinance review, timeline, other topics for the ordinance. Ms. Anderson.
This is another one that ported over, it looks like, from last week, and I think we got everything finalized on what we're going to be handling. So I just wanted to give an update, and that is that we are working with the planning department on the maps, which will be the foundation of how we look at potential sensitive uses. I was able to talk to Greg over in planning this morning to make sure that if there are any other sensitive uses that the city has, that we make sure that we capture those. So there is a running list, and we are working on that. And next week we will plan to have a meeting to go over the permitting process, what that would look like, and then also take a look at those maps. We were able to complete the real estate survey, the commercial real estate survey. So I'll be sending that out by the end of the day today for the city manager to take a look at. But ultimately, we need to take that real estate survey in relation to the sensitive use maps and zoning maps of the city to pretty much build our foundation for what the ordinance requirements and application requirements will be. So we'll be working with city staff on that in the coming weeks.
So you have the timeline.
Right. So the timeline for the ordinance, we don't have specifics on yet because we still need to do community outreach and we need to pull all of the maps and do all the information. So we don't have exact dates when we'll be finished, but we are currently working on it and hoping to have at least a good understanding of the permitting process, which will help us finalize some of those key dates that we want to share with the working committee at the next meeting.
And so we'll do also the submission requirements at that after all of our hearings and everything else too, to be in line with our ordinances so that we could have
Right.
exactly all the standards.
Absolutely. So we're going to be working on those things almost concurrently. The application requirements should mirror what the ordinance requirements are, because
Yes.
that's what you're going to be. That's the merit-based application.
Okay. Item number 6, recap. Members, if are there any remarks, consultants, anything else that we might have left out? I do want to direct Mr. McLean. I know there was some other research that you did with regards to all the other grid maps and things like this. And I think that's what you shared with Ms. McGee. Is that correct?
It's not, it's not shared yet because it's not complete. We've got it
Okay.
mostly done.
Okay.
And when it's complete, I will share. We talked
Okay.
about that this morning.
Okay, great. Can I just make sure also, Mr. McLean, that you could oversee all the emails and communications correspondence that are coming through our cannabis@cityofhawthorne.org? Can you assist us with that?
Yeah, I think I'm getting them already, but I'll make sure.
So if you could just manage that,
Okay.
those correspondence emails. And then I think also those are going to have to be forwarded to the board members so that we can see what correspondence and information we're receiving from the public.
Okay.
And then also City Attorney, Mr. Kim, I had a question but you also have a question. It might be the same. Go ahead. I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Ms. McGee, how does the community outreach affect the ordinance that we're going to draft?
Well, in some ways, in one particular way, if we get a lot of feedback about specific issues like security or landscaping or even the uses themselves, the city may want to adjust what they're proposing or the timeline for that proposal. I can foresee perhaps there being some issues around security that the community would like addressed in the ordinance that may go beyond the state regulations, and those things will have an impact on some of the standards for operation.
And in terms of timeline, when we start drafting these ordinance and proposing it to city council, are we going to, I know that city council voted to keep option open of different various kind of license for cannabis. Is the plan to submit a draft ordinance for council's consideration on all of these licenses at one time, or how? I just want to kind of get a picture ahead of time, because it's my suggestion is that we focus on one main license to see where city council whether they're going to approve. So I would think that the main essential license is a retail license. So instead of just doing it all together, because I don't know exactly how council is going to vote. It could turn up that they will reject a retail license, which kind of means that the rest of it's kind of moot. So my suggestion is that perhaps we can approach the council with just the main license and see if there's an approval for that, and then go down or is that feasible even, or is that even practical?
It's possible, but we would have to, it's going to be more timely and expensive, because essentially now we're creating multiple ordinances versus one ordinance. So we can definitely do it that way, but we will again impact the budget for the project on that, because we will be preparing two or more completely separate documents and going through a hearing for each of those uses. I definitely think that we can roll out the application process in phases, so we can accept applications for retail first or one of the other uses first. But at the city council meeting, the council could amend the ordinance before approval, so they could say, okay, we don't want retail, we only want to allow cultivation and manufacturing. They could actually do that during the hearing. But I think it's best that we prepare all of the ordinance so that we wouldn't have to do it in different phases. But if the city would prefer it that way, we would just need to adjust the scope, our scope.
No, I was just curious because whether that is feasible or not, and that may be a better idea. It's just, you know, at the first reading of at the introduction of the ordinance, if we have all the licenses and city council wants some of the licenses removed,
Mhm.
it would just expand the adoption period. So it would have to be reintroduced again. So it may take a little bit longer, but I do wanna, the cost is essential. So it's probably best that we go with that approach then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say, Mr. Kim, the city council, obviously gave direction, voted, and provided those licenses that they're interested in, and including some that weren't, in my opinion, something that we discussed here on this body. So it's more easier to bring ordinances to address all those licenses ultimately versus chopping. And so that's why it's important that we stay on point when it comes to the ordinances on each of one of those licenses and what those include. And very important that we're using language from other cities that already have that. And obviously it's discussions for, open discussions at city council meetings. So, never know. But Mr. Craig, I'm going to go ahead with you.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman. I was just going to say that I kind of agree with that, presenting them all at once, just because from a layman's perspective, I learned a lot in being in this committee about what the different licenses mean. Like I didn't even know there was a testing one. So I think there's some value if we presented it all at once and that the council could kind of see the whole plethora and which ones mean which I've learned just from being on this committee, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on it. So just my 2 cents worth.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. McGee, did you have another question?
No, but I did want to just give you one little piece of information. We did work on a permitting cities spreadsheet that we're going to share with the committee, and we can ultimately post on the website as well, that outlines all of the other cities in California that are permitting cannabis, what their licensing fees look like, so that we have that in as a baseline. I know that there has been conversations about, the fees and what they'll look like. And so, we're using the West Hollywood model, but we pulled all of the cities so we can see the varying types of licensing structures and also fee structures. I know we already have a tax, but there's also various fee structures. So we have collected that information and updated our charts, and we'll share that with the city committee.
Thank you. Let me just give some direction to Mr. Kim. Could you also please follow up and see where we're at with regards to email access to all of our board members with our cannabis@cityofhawthorne.org, and report back to us if you can with that. And then I wanted to, Ms. McGee, I wanted to, you have your hand still up. I wanted to just make mention, I don't know if you tune into our council meetings that we have every Tuesday, every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. But we did receive petitions, and we did receive public comment, and some of the public comment alluded to some remarks that I just want to pass by to you, just because you were the topic, right? EJAMA as consultants was the topic, and it's unfair when folks just assume. So I want to make sure to clarify any misinformation or rumors that are not in good light. So I understand your compliance officers and provide compliance to existing businesses, which is important. However, they're made mention that as consultants and compliance officers, sometimes folks can think that that means that you own all kinds of cannabis businesses. But when you put compliance officers and you have those agencies that you have to regulate or be compliant to, they assume that those are yours. So can you just provide a little comment about that so that we could just know the difference?
Well, yeah, there are differences. And so I have multiple businesses. This is not my only one. But in terms of compliance, when we do compliance operators, or we do compliance serve as compliance officers for various businesses. That is a separate contract with my company, EJMA.
Okay.
And so that is a contract, just like with the city, I have contracts with both private and public agencies to do compliance work.
Got it. Thank you so much. Mr. Kim?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, are we on number 7, reports and recommendations? Because this is not, we're kind of veering off the topic.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna be ending. I could have done it, say, for instance, at the end where we're coming up to anything else from the members. But since we're already at the end, that was just a question I wanted to ask. And I'm gonna be concluding this meeting, so I'll ask again, board members, if there's anything more that you'd like to provide or give information. I just thought it was very important that we provided Ms. McGee an opportunity to speak on those concerns. Mr. Norris?
Thank you. I wanted to make mention and have the committee just take this for food for thought. During our last council meeting, there was a few residents that mentioned the times of our meeting wasn't conducive to their work schedule. And I do understand that, our model we put together for the 4 community meetings, that we set different times, different dates to try to accommodate those that have other obligations. So I just want this committee to think about, as we move forward with the working committee, is this time the best time to meet? I'm not asking to change the time. I just wanted to speak on that, just to let them know that was a concern from some of the residents or citizens of Hawthorne that called in regarding the meeting time of this committee. Thank you.
Mr. Kim?
Yes, another follow-up from the city council meeting is that, are we expecting any further agreements or contracts? And the reason why I asked that is the consultant agreement was approved through a city manager consent calendar, and there was a council member that said that should have been done through resolution, so that because this is kind of a unique type of consultant agreement. The reason why I put it under city manager's consent calendar is because I treat it like all the other consultant agreements that city enters into. So
Right.
If there is any further contract that will be needed, can you let me know ahead of time so that I would find out and put it in the proper category as requested by one of the council members?
Absolutely. I'll make sure that Mr. Norris lets you know of any additional contracting services to be had. Anything else, Mr. McLean, anything to report out in planning? We're good?
If I may, one more.
Okay.
I just want to clarify some things. And that's regarding the laws about cannabis. I want people observing this working committee to understand this. The Measure CC passed by the city of Hawthorne is 5% sales tax. In terms of legality of recreational sale and use of cannabis, has been since Prop 64 and through state law has been legalized. That doesn't mean that we've already reached the level where we have legalized retail sales of cannabis in the city of Hawthorne. The reason why we have working committee is to come up with the ordinance. And if that's approved by the council, that in fact becomes a law allowing Hawthorne to sell get into various types of cannabis business. But I want community to understand, because I've been getting these questions, that the fact that we have a working committee doesn't mean that we have already approved all this. And there will be an ordinance, that city law that the consultants will be working on, and that's the whole purpose of the working committee. So that's for later down the line. So I just wanted to clarify any misunderstanding because some of the comments that I've been getting.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, processes are important. Transparency is important. And, everything with regards to folks not knowing, not understanding, not being educated enough to fully understand the mandates, if you will, that we're working on. And more importantly, through direction from the state that approved it and provided that. I'm 100% with you, Mr. Kim, with regards to assuring thorough knowledge of exactly what it is we're doing here as a working group committee. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hours, it takes a lot of resources and time. And we're doing our best. The hearings, I understood that there was some concerns that the hearings were not at night. There's not a one during the evening, and there is. We have one on March 30th. That's going to be at 6 p.m. However, we thought those out too. So that's important. Is there anything else from anyone?
Madam Chairperson, just wanted to make you aware that we do have Miss Andrea Santana, an attendee, raising her hand. So wasn't sure if she wanted to make a comment and you wanted to allow that.
Where has she been? Because I don't see her on the screen, and we had that opportunity at the beginning for public comment and no one said anything. You're muted.
She lowered her hand, so for whatever reason, it may have been up accidentally.
Yeah, unfortunately, I at the very beginning, I didn't see anyone, and I don't see her on the screen, so apologize for that. However, please provide your public comment to the city attorney's, city clerk's office, so that we could have that. Ms. McGee, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to also just put out there and then also remind the committee that the city is forming a selection committee for all of the applicants. So I think that's important for the public to understand that even the consultants won't be the last decision maker for these applications or these licenses. It will be a committee selected by the city and made up of city representatives. So I think that's important when we're talking about potential conflicts of interest or even communication with the consultants and the staff. We have made it very clear in our FAQ sheet that all communications must go through the proper channel, which is our cannabis email that is monitored by the city, and the selection committee will need to be formed in order for those selections to be made. So I just wanted to put that in context as well.
Right, thank you.
So,
Mr. Kim?
Yes, so I just want to clarify that and respond to Ms. Anderson, is that there will be a licensing committee, but all committees, including the oversight committee, will only have a recommendation power. So it will be just, so if the selection committee can recommend a particular applicant, but it's ultimately the city council that will decide on issuing these permits if they approve the ordinance. So, you know, there will be a committee that will discuss all this. We'll go through the application process. Then eventually it's always the city council that will approve the ordinance, the licensing, whatever action the oversight committee decide to do. It's ultimately it's the city council that will decide.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Anything further? If there's nothing further, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. The time is 11:47. Have a good day, everyone. Take care. Be safe.